I'm out there.
Let's call this meeting to order, please. Can I have a roll call?
Councilwoman Cleveland?
Here.
Councilman Saxonhammer?
Here.
Councilwoman Smith? Absent. Councilman Evans?
Here.
Councilman Nelson?
Present.
Councilman Hahn?
Here.
Councilwoman Rosso?
Present.
Councilwoman Carroll? Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion for the approval of the October 11, 2022 minutes, please? So
The
moved.
Tuesday,
I have a motion, is there a second?
no, is it the minutes, what, are the
I told
agenda?
the October 11,
Are we approving the agenda or
Are we
just the
approving
minutes?
the agenda?
well, I don't have approval of the agenda on.
Okay.
I am asking for approval of the October 11 meeting
Well,
minutes.
Tony says so.
There's no consent agenda, there's just that set of minutes.
I'll second.
So there's a motion and a second. Any concerns, corrections, discussion?
Very well written. Thank you.
All right, all in favor of approving the October 11, 2022 City Council minutes? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of the October 25, 2022 minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Motion and a second, any corrections,
Yeah.
comments?
They get number two.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
No.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, citizens' comments, please. Kiana, do you have a list in front of you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Becky Harrington?
Hello, I'm Becky Harrington. You all know. How you doing, guys? So obviously we had some things go on up at the roundabout over the weekend. I got several phone calls from neighbors saying that there was a shooting going on in the bar. I'm very disappointed that it's my fault for not coming to meetings again. I thought, we were on a good footing with everybody, but I was surprised that their business license even got renewed. And that at the meeting in August when the business license got renewed, Mr. Nelson stated that we should all get used to gunshots, that you hear them everywhere, and a shooting or shootouts at the OK Corral. I don't think it's that serious, That was a quote on the YouTube video of the meeting that I reviewed this morning before I came. Those of you in Ward 3, which is the ward that I live in, your ward touches the circle there. There are residents that live above the building at the wedge between Florissant and Natural Bridge. There are no lights. There's not enough lights around that circle. My son's car got broken into in the parking lot. And it's very easy to get shot there because you can't see. Nobody can prove you were there because it's very unsafe. So I am begging you. We got behind you guys as council people, encouraged you guys to come and just come together and make this a better neighborhood. I do not want to get used to gunshots. There was another shooting that happened in Ward 1, I think. Another citizen posted that on Nextdoor. We need to do something about this. I'm hoping that as we move forward with maybe better leadership in the police department, that we can do something about this, because this is ridiculous. We should not be scared. This is a great community. We're always saying, why doesn't UMSL do this? Why don't the students do this? But why would they? Why would they when they can get shot getting out of a car to go to a bar, they're not gonna go to that bar. I went to that bar, I did not feel comfortable at that bar, I was treated like I shouldn't even be there. So what I'm saying is, please, we need businesses here, but we don't need the wrong businesses. So please, if they are showing you they cannot control their crowd and their business licenses are up and there are problems, please don't renew them, please. And let's look for people who can have a nice business. There's a club, a 25 and over club down in Bell Ridge. I don't know how many problems they have, but I hadn't seen anybody reporting shootings at that club. So I'm not saying that we cannot have nice places in this community, but that location and that particular bar owner needs to be shut down. But we also need to take care of the problem that there's no lights, it's very dark at the circle, we need to do something about the roundabout. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm used to a different protocol.
No worries. Malik Wendell.
So today I just wanted to talk about, like, as y'all know, I live at Normandy Apartments. And when I first moved in the apartments, we were, I experienced issues with the air and the ventilation, and they didn't really address those issues. And for a while, there was a time where I could barely breathe while I was there. So I've struggled with sleeping, and then I would have to go to work, like, barely able to breathe. And so it took them a long time to really not check anything, and this was while they were under the management of Bauman Properties. And so about a month, because I moved in August 8th, so by August 22nd, they actually changed ownership to Radius Realty. And when Radius Realty took ownership of the complex, they raised the rent. Like in my case, they raised the rent when they weren't supposed to, according to our contract. And they did this for other residents who I've asked. And then they also, I guess they thought that raising the rent by like $20 for me, sometimes more, I heard from other residents. I guess they figured that was enough to paint the doors black and the stairs black, as if paint is going to solve the other host of issues at the complex. And then they also added these ugly lampposts that don't even work, so what was the point of those? And even just today, I came home and I got news from my roommate that we had a new ownership, new company take ownership of the apartments, the Samsung Group. So my concern is mostly with, one, they're not communicating with the residents ahead of time, like that these changes are going on. But two, like they're raising rent, but like not actually doing anything to actually improve the apartment complex. And I'm wondering if there's anything that the council can do to address these issues. For instance, can there be an ordinance that's in place that puts some sort of rent control in place and requires these landlords to get some sort of justification if they do need to raise the rent, so that maybe they'll have to prove that they are going to add certain services or actually improve the complex before they raise rent on residents who are here, because this is people's homes, you know, and people have a right to have some sort of housing security. And if you're just raising the rent on people, they might have to be uprooting their whole lives. Like for me, this is like where I want to stay. You know, I want to stay in Normandy, and I don't want to go anywhere else. And it's just ideally placed with my job, and in terms of like public transportation is ideal for me. So I would like to be able to stay where I live. But if they're going to continue to raise rent and not actually add anything that benefits the people who live here, then it's just not fair. So I just wanted y'all to look into maybe connecting more with folks who live in the apartment complexes and seeing if there's any solutions that can be made to ensure that people can still live in the area and that they're not trying to outprice everybody without actually making these places better and safer for people to live in. That's it.
Thank you.
Terry Gannon.
Terry Gannon, 7620 Augusta. So I was also going to comment on the streetlights on Natural Bridge. because I looked into having a dusk to dawn light put on the parking lot of my building, and then I thought, why should I pay for a dusk to dawn light on the parking lot? Well, actually, the pole that it would be on really isn't even my property. It belongs to the city of Normandy. Why don't we just get the street lights fixed? So that was number one. I keep thinking I'm going to go there in the night and mark all the poles, but then I don't really want to be up there in the night and take my life in my hands. But anyway, at one of the meetings, I also mentioned cleaning up Santa Monica over in Ward 2. It's terrible. It still hasn't been done, but now would be a great time to do it because all the weeds are dying. And if you do it for the winter, it'll last until spring. So that would be a good thing to do. And then when we had the workshop about the park, you know, I kind of started thinking about the things that we talked about, you know, water features and stuff like that. And I started thinking, instead of water features, why don't we have bird baths? Because birds can drink out of them, and it's kind of like a water feature. And they do have those systems that you can, you know, have like the little feeders to water plants and things like that. I think it's called some kind of a bird water system or something. But anyway, so instead of, you know, these fountains and all this fish ponds where kids can fall in and dogs can take baths, I think maybe bird feeders would be great because not only do birds drink out of them, but butterflies and bees. And then when Malik started talking about his apartment, I know we have an ordinance on our book that requires things to be inspected every time there's a change of occupancy. And that includes apartments. And we have very many apartment complexes. It's not just the one across the street, it's not just the one on Normandy Drive, but also up there off of Lucas and Hunt. That is also within our city boundaries. And I know that for a long time, Regina was the inspector for all the apartments because people are coming and going there all the time. And so I don't know what's being done now, but it is our ordinance. And so, you know, when tenants change, if, you know, it were inspected, maybe you'd be able to breathe at night. So, yeah. Okay, that was everything on my list.
Thank you, Terry.
Mike Sappington?
No, nothing.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you. Moving on.
Where was it, Terry?
Report of officers. I have 3 items here. Conversations with the engineers regarding the new city hall are continuing. The initial floor plan that they gave us, they came back with some rough numbers, and this floor plan was rejected outright. The costs resulting from extensive remodeling just drove the price past anything we could manage. So we're back to the drawing board on that, and I'll have an update for that at the December meeting. Secondly, November 14, we still don't have our new public works truck, but we're going to rent a truck that can pull a leaf vac. The week of November 14, have your leaves to the street. We're going to do that leaf vac once, and that's that week, all week, every ward. So make sure that, and we're going to put out signs on the streets saying
Is
leaf
that the
vac.
leaves or the brush?
That's the leaf vac.
Leaves.
The brush will be an ongoing project. We do have a
Oh, the
week,
limb is-
we do
The
have
limb
a
is
week,
the 7th, so the 7th.
right, but that doesn't require a rented truck. We're going to do that the 7th, just so people are aware
Yeah.
and get their limbs out. But that'll be an ongoing process. The leaf vac is we're gonna rent the truck the week of the 14th, run it all week, get every ward done, and we're done until we get our new truck. Lastly, regarding the shooting incident that was brought up at the Courtyard Bar on Saturday night, the city believes that this incident, together with other past incidents, constitute good cause to support the suspension or revocation of that business license. We're gonna have a hearing on this issue in this chamber Thursday, November 10th, 4:45, and we're gonna hear evidence from the city and the bar owner. And it's gonna be determined with a vote of the council what to do with this business license. And that's November 10th, 4:45, right here. So I don't want to have a conversation. I've been advised by council that because we're in pending litigation with this establishment, that anything beyond the statement that I just read, we're not going to continue this conversation at tonight's meeting. That's all I have. Anybody on the council have a report from their ward?
I don't know if Mr. Harris is here, but the light in Teardrop Park, number 1, is out. And I know that we had the electrician come a few months ago to look at that. But I just wanted to let him know that it's out. And then also, we still have the problems with the wandering dogs pooping in the park.
Thank you. I can't tell you, he did order lights. I'll read his report if he's not here
But
by that time.
but they came out and looked at it, so I don't know, he
Might
told
be
me to tell them,
electrical.
I don't know if it's the light that blew or if it's the wiring.
And it might be something that he's having Reinhold come
Yeah,
out for.
he said tell him if it goes out, so. The other ones work, but that one doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to report, as many of you have known, MoDOT is engaging the public, including residents of Normandy, having to do with upcoming renovations to Natural Bridge and Florissant Road, as they are known. This morning, very refreshing change, 9:30 a.m., MoDOT crews were actually, were actually surveying and walking along Florissant Road and Bermuda to get actual foot traffic indications as to how to safely traverse those intersections. They also traversed the northern half of Florissant Road as well. And in case anyone did not notice, along Florissant Road, there are now speed surveyors along both sides, northbound and southbound, so as to get more accurate data on the speeding issue that we have along Normandy. So just so that people are aware, concerns have been heard. They are actually trying, it seems, to listen. It feels like to me.
No.
I'm a little more hopeful than I was a month ago, as it were. So thank you for your patience. And please continue your comments and suggestions to the project manager, Lisa Kurtz. If you need her email address, please reach out to me.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Huh?
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
just have a question about the leaf pickup. Is
Yes.
it just, you say 1 week only. Is it every day that week that they're gonna go to each ward?
We're gonna leave that flexibility to Chris Harris, our Public Works Director. In that week, every ward will be hit. But what I'm saying is, everybody get their leaves to the curb by Monday the 14th. They might get picked up Friday. We don't know that.
Okay.
It might rain 2 days that week.
Okay.
But I just want him to have the flexibility to get the job done when he can get the job done. We're gonna have that truck for 1 week.
Okay, I just wanna get
Yeah,
clarity. Thank
yeah.
you.
Well, I have a suggestion. Since we have the bucket truck fixed, is there any way we can go through the wards and trim the limbs from around the street lights?
I'll make that suggestion.
Yeah, because we have a lot of tree limbs that's hanging over the street lights and they're blocking the light.
Thank you.
That will brighten up some of the areas, you know what I mean? Especially in the winter.
So teardrop park lights and trim the limbs of the street lights.
Yes.
All right. Anyone?
Yeah, Rick Nelson, Third Ward, City Council. There was content that was spoken about me earlier, and I don't go for the gunshots and everything. You can be in your home, as I stated, you can be in your home and hear shots from Ferguson, from the city, from Bell Ridge, from all over. you know, and I'm not for the violence. So if there was a quote that a citizen said that I did, I think you mistook that. But there also was a murder a few doors down from the courtyard that you didn't mention, that we need to know about that. So violence is everywhere, and I'm not for it. So I want to let you guys know, and you should know, I've been on this board for 3 terms, and I'm working on the 4th, if the citizens want me to represent them. But I just want to let you know that I do not condone gunshots. You're gonna hear them. I think everybody in this room who lives in Norman hears them from all over. And you never get used to it. That's all.
Thank you. Just going down Dartmoor, someone grabbed the stop the speed limit sign and twisted it. Yeah, I will tell you, Chris is doing an entire inventory. He's almost done with missing street signs, bent street signs.
Yes.
We had that conversation today. Good, good, thank you. Good. Anything else? Moving on. Sam, do you have anything for us?
I submitted a written report to council. There's quite a few things that are ongoing. One is the hiring process for the chief of police, which should be publicly posted in the coming weeks. We've got 2 RFPs out, one for an audit, which will be the first audit that we'll have done in several years. One is for the roof repair at Public Works, which was a ARPA project that we budgeted for. And there will be a resolution in relation to that project on tonight's agenda. One is the business license code update, which we'll be considering tonight. And there's also a few other projects, and as well as a newsletter and ways to improve our public information and communication. We're hoping, I know at earlier meetings we talked about a November newsletter. Obviously it's November and we don't have one. There were some staffing issues at City Hall, we had to push it back, but hopefully by January we can get something out. There's, you know, we'll get something out for January, a newsletter. So, and then I know it's a little out of order on the agenda, but Chris Harris did text me. He's not feeling well tonight and he wasn't able to make it in. But he did provide a written report, which I'll briefly summarize. We're obviously shutting down the fountain fairly soon. It's starting to get cold, and winterizing it properly for spring next year. Everyone was mentioning the lights on Natural Bridge, and there are quite a few out. There's actually so many out that we didn't have to supply on hand. I don't think we realized in the lighter months how many had gone out. And so we're getting a quote from a state contract to get bulbs to replace it, and even considering switching to LED on some of the lights to potentially save money in the long run and get brighter streets.
So, are you saying that we'll hire out to do the changing of the lights?
No,
No.
just get the bulbs.
Oh.
If we installed LEDs, that would be something that we hired out for. And we've already discussed the leaf pickup and brush pickup, and going into the fall and winter seasons, they're working on training and cross training the public works crew. So,
Thank you.
Can we ask a question to Sam?
Yes.
Have we hired a housing clerk? Yeah.
we're currently still working to hiring a police clerk. We've been kind of down on our luck on that. But right now, and the police clerk will double as a housing clerk as well. But right now, it's me, Rick, and Kiana just kind of filling in that duties, and it's.
I knew you were doing interviewing, but I hadn't heard the,
Right.
and then with the request for proposal for audit, so, Angela Dorn's doing that, like, outline audit for last year, I forget the term.
Yeah, the compilation report, and it's essentially the financial statements that we already have. And I believe council should have received that. It may have even been back in the spring, but
The report is done?
For this, I think Councilman Russell's referring to fiscal year 21, so
The-
2020 to 2021.
Right, well, 2022, maybe so. So the compilation report. So the next year report, what are the dates for that then?
That will be October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. We're
Yeah.
gonna get those financial statements audited.
So, you're not needing to go back, many years, right? So it shouldn't, it's saying it's gonna be really difficult because of previous years?
It won't be, I don't know if it shouldn't be really difficult, but the fact that we haven't had an audit in previous years will present certain challenges. And just the turnover that the City Hall had over the past year.
So Angela Dorn's, company is not necessarily doing it because you're putting out an RFP?
No, and it wouldn't be proper for them to do it because they help us so much in our day-to-day operations. So they can't audit themselves, so.
Got it. Thank you.
One other thing, Sam, were you able to talk to Rick about those derelict cars on the contour?
I did, and I can speak with you after about the specific case if you'd like, but it is gonna be handled and ordinances will be enforced appropriately.
Thank you.
I have a question. The cars over in Ward 2, what street was that, or Skyview? Did we ever get a resolution to that? Because I'm still seeing cars.
For the business.
It's an ongoing, I'll let Captain Sanders address that after she gives her presentation. That would be a question for her.
Right.
All right.
Sam, were you gonna address the other items on your report?
I can if you'd like. I think the two I didn't mention were the job descriptions and pay plan. Hopefully by the December meeting, we can present something to council that will be a comprehensive set of job descriptions as well as the initial pay plan for the council to review and adopt when they see fit. And also we're working, and this is going to be a year-long project leading up to next budget year, on a capital improvement plan. Because right now we just have a operational budget. Really, you should have an operational budget and a 5-year capital budget. And there's a lot of work that needs to go into getting us to the point where we can have a good 5-year capital improvement budget. And so we're doing, right now what we're doing is working on the inventory for all the assets that we own and getting that in a easily in one concentrated place and getting all that information together rather than having it in separate documents everywhere. So.
Thank you, Sam. Captain Sanders, what do you have for us?
Good evening. The police department report, I stopped it on the 27th, which was Thursday, so you guys could get it out in the packet. Typically, whatever date the packet comes out is the date I'll run from the beginning of that month until the date that the packet comes out. So the data that you have in front of you spans between Saturday, October 1st and Thursday, October 27th. In the workshop, we discussed more comprehensive reports for the board, so you guys have a better picture of what's going on in the police department. And I actually submitted the Normandy Police Department statistical data report. I know that you guys have asked for some just raw data concerning the events that have transpired in Normandy, and not just Normandy proper, but the cities that we also provide contract service for. So it took a little while, but I was able to get those numbers together. So let's kind of go through that just very quickly. The calls for service from October 1st to October 27th, there were 549 police calls for service in the city of Normandy. There were 66 calls in Bell Bakers. There were 357 calls in Bell Ridge, 193 calls in Pool Valley, 34 calls in Glen Echo Park, and then of course you see the Greendale and Pasadena Hills. Those are in there because we did have those contracts the earlier portion of this year, but during this time span there was 0 calls for service. And then in Pasadena Park, there were 58 calls. So total in this 27-day period, there were 1,257 calls for service. So the officers of Normandy answered roughly 1,200 calls for service. Now, I went back and I did the data, we had agreed on 1 calendar year. So I went back to October 27th of last year, 2021, and I did the numbers until October 27th of 2022. During that time in Normandy, there were 7,139 calls for service. There were 508 calls in Bell Revakers, 4,348 calls for service in Bell Ridge, which is pretty noteworthy because if you think about it, we had that contract mid-year. So in half of a year, we answered 4,300 calls, and in Normandy, we answered 7,100 for the entire year. So in 6 months, we answered more than half as many calls in Bell Ridge than we do in Normandy in a year. For Cool Valley, there were 2,017 calls. Glen Echo Park, there were 363 calls, Greendale 355, Pasadena Hills 322, and Pasadena Park 532. The total amount of calls for service that we answered in the last calendar year were 15,584 calls for service. There were 1,162 police reports taken in the city of Normandy, 878 summonses written, 9 in Bell Revakers, 3 summonses in Bell Revakers. 690 police reports in Bell Ridge. So again, if you look at the numbers for Bell Ridge and where they stand at half a year as opposed to a full year in Normandy, you can see the kind of gap is closing there with regards to the amount of calls and reports that we write in Bell Ridge. And 318 summonses. Cool Valley, 305. Police reports, 419 summonses. Glen Echo Park, there were 4 police reports, 4 summonses. Greendale, 11 police reports, summonses, and Greendale and Pasadena Hills are unknown because we don't have access to the mobile ticketing for those places now that we don't provide service for them. So that was data that we were not able to capture because the municipalities that provide their service now have the primary access to that data. And then lastly was Pasadena Park. There were 19 police reports and 22 summonses. So for police reports, there were a total of 2,573 reports, including 356 accident reports taken in the calendar year, and 1,644 summonses. So that's the call data. As you can see, it's more substantial than what you guys hear month to month. You hear that we answered 600 or 700 calls for service, and people kind of go, well, if I divide that by 30 days, it doesn't seem like a lot. Well, when you actually amortize the calls across all of the cities and all of the work the officers are doing, they're doing a remarkable job. They're answering a lot of calls. They're writing a lot of police reports. There are a lot of active and ongoing investigations. The second part of the police report, I provided the crash data report by location. I know that there was a question in the workshop about whether or not we could kind of parse out where the accidents are taking place. And I went to MoDOT's website based upon crash data submitted by the city of Normandy, and this is for all cities that we provide service for. And I was able to complete a color-coded grid for you guys. The key is on the back, and if you look at the key, you can kind of see where the majority of the accidents are transpiring. So for example, everything in gold is on the highway, everything in green is on 70 is in gold, 170 is in green, Natural Bridge is anything in gray, Florissant Road is the dark blue, and Bermuda Road is the light blue. Some of the side streets and things like that, you'll see they still exist in white. This is actually all of the crash data for the entire year. We didn't really capitalize or really capture the data on some of the side streets because accidents will happen. We tried to get the ones in the busiest intersections, the main arterial roadways that run back and forth throughout the city, and try to capture that data for you guys. And again, it's not Normandy specific. That's just everybody that we provide police service for. The last report that I gave you guys is kind of played into a question that was asked of us about what type of investigation the police department is running. I was able to provide you with the case data, and by case data, when I say this is, if you look at the date that these cases were entered, you'll see they go from October 1st all the way to October 26th. This report that's in front of you.
Where are you at?
The detective's report.
Thank you.
The very back one, the small one. This report is only for the month of October, so this does not mean that these are all the active investigations in the entirety of the police department that are under investigation. This is 1 month of active investigations, and as you can see, we have missing persons, we have shootings, death investigations, burglaries, we have some pretty serious crimes. It's noteworthy that in the past 5 days, since Saturday, I believe the courtyard incident was Saturday into Sunday morning, we've had 5 shooting incidences in the city of Normandy. So our detectives are working very, very hard. There's a lot of active and ongoing investigations. This list that you see in front of you is updated by the Detectives Bureau monthly. Cases that don't have any substantial leads, that we don't have anything on, we will inactivate those cases. It does not mean they cannot be reactivated, but we inactivate them to stay compliant with state statutes and requirements regarding case management and follow-up on cases. Anything that we believe that we may have some leads on, we have things that are open on, we'll leave them open and we'll carry them over to the next month. And typically the month-to-month tally that the detectives are working can be anywhere from 20 cases to 60 cases at one time between 2 detectives. So it's quite a substantial caseload. If you go back to the report, for crime trends, there's been an uptick in car thefts and car cloudings, and I know everybody knows about the Hyundai Kia fiasco that's going on nationwide. It's an epidemic. You've got some police departments in some cities filing legislation against Kia. You've got some cities that have actually taken city resources to provide citizens with anti-theft devices. We've had some inquiries about that. At the present time, there is no grant money or anything available for our department, our city to capture, to purchase these devices to provide them to the residents. But at this time, we are still suffering from that epidemic. The wards that are specifically seeing upticks are, well, the areas specifically across each ward are Mansion Hill Apartments, Castle Park Apartments. Castle Park has been getting hammered with vehicle thefts. The Norwood Manor subdivision, that's where we had 2 specific shooting incidences over the weekend, and they both go back to car thefts. Residents are advised to remove their valuables from site. When you're parking your vehicles. One of the most simple housekeeping things that we can just address is lock your doors. You would not believe how many people call us and say, I had a gun in my car, but I didn't lock my doors. Take weapons out of cars. I don't know why we leave weapons in cars. It just never made sense to me. It's not going to make sense. We need to get weapons out of cars. They're personal protection devices. They do no good in your car when it's locked and you're not in it. It's just another element to what would be a property crime is now, the potential for a life crime or a person crime, because now these are more guns on the street, more violence, etc. So yeah, remove your vehicles from plain sight, lock your car doors, engage your alarm systems. If you have one, turn it on. So at least if it's going, and if it goes off in the middle of the night, do not go outside, do not confront these people. That's what you pay your police department to do. You pay us to respond to those things. We have ballistic vests. I don't know many citizens in the middle of the night that are wearing ballistic vests. It's extremely dangerous to confront someone over a vehicle. That is why vehicles are insured. No, we are not going to pursue vehicles. There is nothing that is worth pursuing a vehicle to endanger people's lives. This is what insurance is for. But we will respond, and if we can catch them and take them into custody, we will do that. But it's ill-advised to confront someone over a property crime. It is not worth your life. If you see it, you hear something looks off, call us. We're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and this is the service that your tax dollars pay for. The last thing is if you have an anti-theft device, use it. It will slow them down. A lot of times it's a deterrent. It will make them just kind of think twice. I would not want to take an extra 10 minutes to try to work on this anti-theft device when I can go down the street to the car that doesn't have one. So if you have one, let's use those. Yes, sir.
And Captain, just to make note, I do have 2 anti-theft devices that are in their original packaging, and they are up for anyone within Ward 3 if they would like to ask of me, just as a side note.
Perfect, thank you very much.
So regarding the question, without mentioning a specific address, there has been an issue of unlicensed vehicles and on I believe it's Horizon.
Yeah, that's right.
Can I jump on that one at the end?
Yep.
Okay. Next, you guys see the case management log. In response to both the regional and national police officer shortages. I don't know if you guys have seen the news. Bell Fountain Neighbors is down to 5 police officers in their patrol division. At this point, it's not really a game of how much you pay or what your hours are. There are far too many jobs available, and it's an extremely competitive market. So we tried to figure out, how we can get ahead of this trend and start pulling qualified applicants in. And it seems like the only way that we're going to do that is by finding our own people and putting them through the academy or getting them the minute they walk through the door. So we're revamping our recruitment strategies to remain competitive in the local hiring pool because it's extremely dry out here, looking for people that want to do this job. But we're coming up with solutions and we're constantly strategizing new ideas. We're pleased to report that because of these new strategies that we've recently implemented, we were able to add several recruits from the Jefferson County Law Enforcement Training Center to our staff. Right now, they are auxiliary members, they're non-commissioned police officers. They're going through our full hiring process like everyone else. At the completion of all of their paperwork, we will get it off to the Police Personnel Board, and they're following the same hiring practices as everyone else that has ever been hired here. We just want to just keep those people and kind of lock them in as quickly as possible and get them to commit to Normandy. So we're super excited. You're going to be seeing some new faces around here. They're wearing the blue uniforms. When you see them, just say, hey, you look new. They'll appreciate it. They are new, they're excited, they're inspired to be here. And I just hope that we're able to retain them throughout the time that they're in the academy. Their anticipated graduation is the end of May. So we've got a little while, but it's gonna be a great opportunity for them to get in here into the police department, learn the streets, learn the residents, find out what it is that we do, acclimate themselves with the community before they get here. And once they start in their 12-week field training program, there's nothing that they haven't done at that point. So we're hoping it will make them more successful in their field training program too. It's kind of a twofold strategy that we've created. So yeah, we're looking forward to them becoming full-time commissioned police officers with our agency. And then after a 2-year hiatus, the Normandy Police Department Facebook page is back up and running.
Yes.
We have begun to parse out job duties around here again and get people working. The officers are excited. I don't know if you guys have noticed there's more traffic enforcement. They're actually pulling people over. Everyone is energized. They are working, and we want to keep them that way. But one of the big things that we used to always kind of pride ourselves on was our community policing mission. We were everywhere. We were into everything. And we had taken a hiatus from that for a couple of years, and we weren't really, the police officers are still changing tires, they're still carrying up groceries, they're still raking leaves, they're still doing good deeds, changing, tires up on Interstate 70 in busy traffic, but those things weren't getting the spotlight that they needed. So Corporal Rami Albisharit, I don't know, everyone that knows Rami loves Rami. He's great. He's our new community relations person with regards to our Facebook, our public information. He's my photographer. He is out here, he's great, he's capturing great images. Our officers were able to go up to the St. Vincent's National Night Out. If you haven't seen it already, our officers are on Facebook doing the wobble. It's entertaining. To say the least, it's entertaining, but it's great to see us out there back in the community, and we want to showcase the things that make Normandy great. Like Becky Harrington was saying, we're a community-oriented police department, and we need to showcase that. So we hope to put the policing back in community policing soon. So that's the police department report with regards to happenings and what's going on. I know we're going to discuss Flock a little bit later, so I'll save this for later. The vehicles on Horizon. So I personally went over there and made contact with the homeowner. I spoke with them. There was a trailer that was out there. They stated they would come by for a permit, and the person that owns the home actually owns kind of like they buy cars at auction. And between the auction and the lot, they bring them to their home. The vehicles that were out there on the day that I was there were all personal use vehicles, and the registration on those vehicles was bad. I did give the residents, we always give our residents a break within the confines of what's reasonable. That resident was given an opportunity to get the licensure on their vehicles together. They said it would be done by the end of September. It was not done. I sent my officers back over. Summonses were issued. One thing we don't like to do is we don't like to hammer our residents when we don't have to. So we will make contact with them again if the problem persists. We'll give them an opportunity to abate the nuisance, and if the nuisance persists, we'll cite again. At this point, with regards to towing the vehicles, I know that there was vehicles that are on private property, and there's a whole gamut of things that we have to do before we can remove vehicles from private property. We have to actually obtain search warrants from a judge. So it's a more cumbersome process to remove vehicles, and what we find is when we sticker them on the streets, they pull the stickers off, they put them in the driveway.
I'm sorry, Captain, is that,
go ahead.
Is that in relation to Fourth Amendment then, at the federal level, or where? Where's the distinction?
It's on their private property, and we're not allowed to go on private property to take anything without a warrant from a judge. So
Okay,
just
that's-
like you're referring, unlawful search and seizure, can't do it.
Thank you.
So we have to get a warrant from a judge, and that process is a little bit lengthy because we have to prove to the judge that we've made efforts to contact the person. We have to have documentation that we've given them a chance to abate the violation. We have to have a lot of documentation before we can remove them. So what's happening is, kind of like the people that were here on Waco, they're on the street, then they're in the driveway. So we have to catch them back in the street again, and there's a time period that has to elapse. There has to be 72 consistent hours without the vehicle moving in order for us to actually tow the vehicle from the time the sticker's placed. Yes, sir.
Well, here's the thing. Most of the cars on the streets, they're not in the driveway. And they haven't been moved. I mean, because I went around there and seen the stickers on the windows. And they take the stickers off and leave the cars on the street. So they're not moving the cars in the driveway because it's at least 7, 8 cars there.
There's 4, and one of them is that, it's a Kia Telluride, that's a personal use vehicle. And she actually drives that vehicle back and forth to work. I've actually seen her because I stopped her for expired plates, and it was the same person that.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
saying.
So the thing is, they have to be there sustainably, they have to not move for 72 hours in order for us to tow them, the way that our ordinance is written.
So what about the trailer?
So we cite them. With regards, she has a pod, you're talking about the storage pod?
No, it's the actual trailer. Had a couch on it the other day, or a chair,
Well,
sitting out in front.
I know what you're referring to. The
Right.
trailer was moved when I first went over there, because at first they just had flooring on it. She was having her basement torn up because her house flooded. So when I talked to her, they got the trash off the trailer with the next trash collection. She did call and have the trash removed, and the trailer was up on the improved surface, which is the gravel that's right along the side of her driveway. But now it's back, and if there's a couch on it, I'll go by and make contact with her personally again.
Well, not a couch, but a chair.
I'll make contact with her tomorrow.
Because, I mean, it's been going on for over a year now. I mean, we should have came to some type of resolution on this problem. It continues to happen.
I was just given the problem at the end of September, and I gave them a full 30 days to abate the problem, and when it didn't happen, they were issued summonses. So we're coming to resolution. I haven't had the problem for a year though, but it won't be another year, I can assure you that. I'll address it tomorrow.
Because, I mean, some weeks you can go around there and he has cars on both sides of the street. And if you have a big truck, you can't even get down the street. At least on one side of the street, there's no parking on the side of the street, right? And I think that's the opposite side from where the house is at. There's no parking on that side of the street, but they're parking on this side of the street.
I'll go by and I'll address it tomorrow. The day that I went, they had several cars parked along in front of the house, and all of them, with the exception of the small white car, were operable. The white car is operable, but it was unlicensed. But I can go by tomorrow. I know exactly which house you're talking about, and they're actually family members. They live next door to one another. So I'll address it tomorrow.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions for Captain Sanders?
Yes, Captain Sanders,
Yes, sir.
this is excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles, do you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mayor and council persons. Did receive a report from Ms. Dorn for the activity for the month of August. We still do not have anything for September. They'll be working on that. But for the month of August, that will cover 11 months of fiscal year 2022. As you can see, if you hopefully have the report, in Part A, for the summary of the income statement, we have a net deficit through the first 11 months of $340,000. For the Part B, summary of the general fund balance, with the general fund unrestricted cash balance as of August 31 at $1.39 million. You have a general fund board designated amount of $751,000 and unearned revenue from ARPA funds of $571,000. Amounts due to the general fund of
$198,000 in amounts due from the general fund to other funds of $67,000, resulting in a net general fund balance of just under $198,000. For the income, Part C, revenues, total general fund income coming out to $3.866 million compared to the budget amount of $4.494 million. It looks at a budget left of 14%, considering this was an 11-month period. We would have looked for that amount to be either 8.33% or less if revenues were in a positive manner. However, because of them being 14%, it's less than desired at this point. For the expenditures in the department, if you look at the first four expenditures, they all have amounts that are below 8.33%, which means they're underperforming, meaning they're spending more than desired at this point. Whereas everything from contracts down to debt payments are at a more favorable position, in that those budgets remaining are much higher than 8.33%. So the overall percentage of the budget is 9.1, which is good for the expenditures. 4.2 million year to date compared to the annual budget of 4.63 million. Again, with regard to the overall position, we hope that we can have something else for September for the next meeting, so you all might be able to have an overall view for the whole fiscal year. But I would say that's about where we're at right now.
I do have a question. I'm a bit confused about the percent of budget remaining 14%. With 2 months remaining in that budget year, I thought that's where we were supposed to be. What was, you mentioned something about 11-month.
Yes, so
I was confused by that.
So since this is for August 31st, this reflects the first 11 months of the fiscal year, considering that the fiscal year ends on
Okay,
September
I got it.
3rd.
No, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Any questions? Can I, if not, can I have a motion to approve the August 2022 financial report?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
All right, old business. There is no old business. Let's go to new business. Resolution 2224. A resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with the St. Louis County Board of Election Commissioners for provision of election and candidate filing processing services. This doesn't cost us anything, and it takes the political process out of the hands of our hired staff, and I just think it's a good idea. Let's ask for a motion first for approval of resolution 2224.
I'll make a motion.
We used that last year, right?
I don't believe we did. It was kind of a
We
pain.
voted on it last year.
Yeah, it was rejected, if I remember correctly. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, concerns? The question about did we do this last year, I think I brought this to the council last year and it was rejected. Any opinion on this? I'll ask for a vote if not. We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 22-24 passes. All right. Next item of business, Resolution 2225, a resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Flock Safety. We talked about this at length. It looks like at that time, everybody was on board, but if there's a motion and a second, we'll engage in any additional conversation if it's required. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 22-25?
I wanted to make a motion to table. I wasn't completely on board with it, and there were a few reasons. One was, I think there was some confusion when the previous Chief Hall, I wanted to have like more choices to pick from. What I asked for him to look into was like a mobile surveillance type.
Okay, well, you got a motion to table. I'll ask for a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. It's tabled. I'm a little confused as to process. If we table this, can we engage in the conversation at this point? I think we move on and take it to another workshop.
Right, that's exactly right. If it's been tabled, that's the end of it for
Yeah.
the meeting. So it'll be placed on another agenda for a future workshop.
Okay. Next item of business, Resolution 2226. A resolution of the City of Normandy, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to accept a bid from Garland Industries, Inc. for the purchase of roofing materials through the Omnia Cooperative Purchasing Contract in the amount of $23,901. Can you explain, Sam, if you would, what this is about? I'm sure it created some confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're currently in the process of getting an RFP for the roof repair at the Public Works Garage. Garland, our Omnia is a cooperative purchasing contract corporation for our public entities. So basically, they take contracts from different bidding processes all across the country and let other municipalities, school districts, counties piggyback off of other contracts. Garland is part of this Omnia group. They've gone through a bidding process, and this is just for the raw material for the repair of the roof. And right now we have an RFP out for the labor for the people to actually do the repair with these materials. But for the raw materials, I think quite confidently I can say that we're getting a better price by going through a cooperative purchasing contract. And also Garland was also nice enough to draw the specs and help us with the RFP for the labor of the contract. Not that we have to, we're by no means bound to use them for the materials, but I think their prices are good and it's gone through a rigorous bidding process. All we need is a vote of the council to accept something like that, so.
Sam, I'm assuming this is just for the bulk of the materials that are required, and it's not fully comprehensive as to everything that would be required for it. It's a flat roof system, right?
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on roofs, but you can see the quantity of the rolls and the squares. It's the base material. Now, we're holding an RFP for the labor to install that and any incidental materials that might come along with it. So this comes in at about $24,000. We're hoping that the labor, that the other bid comes in anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000. And that would put us on budget for the repair.
So we're talking at least settled, right?
Yeah,
In that
which is
ballpark.
about what we budgeted for. If we were to put the materials into the RFP process, the different separate bidders would likely mark them up. This is a direct from the supplier, so.
And the only reason I ask is because I do know with various roofers, there, especially at the commercial level, there are lots and lots of backups because of the supply chain issue, because of inflation, but mostly because of the supply chain issue.
Yeah.
And so if this is actually what is required for the Public Works roof, that'd be fine, but has that been optimized? Is that, like, do we have someone from Normandy
Yeah.
who says, hey, this is what we need for
So-
that roof?
So Gemma, who is helping us across the street, they oversaw a lot of this process for us, and they have the expertise.
They get a site inspection.
They got us the site inspection and they reviewed the bids, the RFP, and they checked it out for us.
Is there a motion to approve?
Let me ask you one question.
We'll get it, let's get a resolution and it'll be tabled or we will continue the conversation.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2226?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rick, you have a
Yeah,
question?
what's the warranty on it?
These are just, well, I'm not 100% sure, I might have to check into that. These are,
What's the warranty and what's the cost for, to just have a new building? I'm just asking.
well, the cost for a new building, I'm not sure what it costs to build a garage, but I don't know what site, we may have to tear down that building, and
Yeah, because we had a lot of rust on that building, right?
I'm not intimately familiar.
I'm not aware that there's any structural issues with that building. If we put a roof on it, we should be good for
Yeah,
some years.
that's my understanding.
Okay, find out what the warranty is before we spend this kind of money. 5 years, 10 years, or?
Well, this authorizes the mayor, it doesn't bind the mayor.
Okay.
And if we find out there's issues with warranty or otherwise, we can put the brakes on it.
Okay.
Or authorizes, let's see, the city administrator, not the mayor. But it just gives him the authorization to move forward with this. Any other questions? I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Resolution 2226 is adopted. Item 4, Council Bill 2224.
I would like to table this resolution. It was brought to our attention that there are level 3 cities that have the revocation of license put into the ordinance, and we started the conversation last month. We're just getting this ordinance to read this month, and it's very detailed. And then with this added information, which we've requested to be able to see other cities' information, I just really think we need to table it and take it to a workshop and study it and have a good, thorough conversation about it.
There's a motion to table. Is there a second?
Can I address?
We have a motion and a second. Yes, you can.
Okay, on the revocation, this business license code that we're presenting here has a process for revocation in it as well. And it's actually going unchanged from what we did have, and we're actually pursuing that process right now with a certain business. So,
But the fact that we've just been able to see this for 3 days and haven't had a workshop to discuss each section and understand the ordinance, I just think we need more time to discuss it and get a handle on it and understand it.
well, and there's not gonna be a second reading or a vote on this tonight.
Well, I motioned to table it, and Yolanda seconded it.
There's a motion to table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Ayes have it. Motion carries. Last item shouldn't take too long. Discussion of school zones on Natural Bridge Road. Sam had a conversation with MoDOT, and this is really up to us if we want to declare a school zone in front of St. Anne's and in front of the middle school here. And what it does is allows us to enact some more strict enforcement mechanisms, which is double fines, that type of thing.
Those are not school zones?
They are currently school zones.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, we did decide they were, but we wanted to talk about, do we want to put in double fines? What do we want to do?
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, and there's a few different things that go into what constitutes a school zone. Right now, we have school zones at the middle school at St. Anne's. It's a yellow sign with 2 pedestrians instead of 1. One is a child, one is like a parent, and then a little placard that says school on it. That's what constitutes a school zone. It's fairly automatic. That's what we have. Whether or not we and right now we don't have any reduction in speed. We don't have any additional lights or anything like that, and we don't have any double fines. And things like double fines is something that we could institute in a school zone if we think it's a problem. Reducing the speed is something that we can ask MoDOT to do, and they'll give special consideration to it, given that it's a school zone. And then things like blinking lights and more comprehensive pedestrian crossing is something that we can put up the money for at the school zone, and MoDOT will help us with that. I don't know, when I say help, I don't think they kick in a whole lot of money or anything, they just facilitate the process for us. But we would have to pay for the crossing.
Go ahead.
Has there been any consideration about possibly making the Bermuda School a school zone?
Is it not on Bermuda Road?
It is.
It's a school zone.
Is
They're
it?
all school zones, and to my knowledge, we've been collecting double fines since the ARC zone.
Whatever, Bermuda school.
So it's a school zone, but the
Does it have the lights?
speed didn't go down, is what you're saying?
Correct.
But does it have the lights and the,
No.
would that be like would we have to group them into this?
If we wanted like a lighted pedestrian crossing, we would have to pay for the lights.
Yeah, I knew it.
At that area too?
Well, this grew out of the discussion that we had last week, is look, we got problems, we got speeding issues on Natural Bridge. Is this a tool that we believe would be helpful?
But I'm saying, with this, would we have to take every school and add them into the list? Of like this school, this school, this school?
I don't know that we have to, I
So
think it
that
would
they
be
get
better
the-
to make
so that
separate,
They get the
separate.
lights and the everything. is
Yeah,
focused.
and quite frankly, we don't even know what the blinking lights would cost. Now, Captain mentioned we are currently collecting double fines in these school zones.
The way that mobile ticketing works is when we check the box that the speeding violation was in a construction zone or a school zone, it is an enhancement when the judge is looking at his fine schedule, and there has always historically been an enhanced fine for the school zones and construction zones.
But we could by ordinance impose.
Or we could just put this, if we are, and I was unaware, if we are currently doing double fines, we could put the signs up. And,
It says double.
because when I see those signs, I slow down, because I don't want to hit double fines. And that would probably do a lot, but we'll have to research to see what the status of that is.
There's a stoplight that they can.
So,
Excuse me.
double fines, does anybody have an objection to that? Does that seem predatory to anybody?
No.
It's
It's
okay.
happening already, so I mean,
Okay, well, it's not mandated. I believe from what you're saying, the judge has the option to double fine or not double fine. We could impose by ordinance a double fine. And the only other tool we would have is, do we want to spend money, which is not in this year's budget, on flashing lights or some additional signage, double, school zone, double fines, something to that effect? Are those dollars?
And we could request a speed change as well, but I don't know if it would be granted or not.
I would certainly be in favor of making that request. I think we have too high a speed limit on Natural Bridge and Florissant Road both. Well, it's 30, but if the speed limit's 30, it's typically you're 37, 38 before people even worry about getting a ticket.
But when MoDOT's workshop, and we raised that question, they were saying it's very complicated to get the speed change, but not impossible, I said, right? And she said, right, but they were kind of resistant of.
Well, we,
To clarify, if I may,
Go ahead.
I believe what I was told at least was that based on ticketing information, accident data, raw data that they had access to within the limits of Normandy, there was not enough data to support a drop in speed limits because we didn't have the tickets to back up that data, which is almost like a cart before the horse situation, because as I asked the project manager for MoDOT, what type of accident do you need and how many accidents do you need before we actually drop the speed limit? The following day, we had a bicyclist who was struck by a runaway vehicle and fled the scene. So again, I'm not wanting to see a child struck and killed before we take action, because this is a very sore subject. As a regular pedestrian, I am regularly walking through our neighborhood, as I know many of you who are here presently are as well, so.
But in the discussion, they also increased a pedestrian walkway. They were just gonna have one on South Florissant, and as we
Yes.
talked, they added another one further down. So that was really helpful. So, Captain Sanders, so if we start getting data on the tickets and the accidents and report that to MoDOT, David, then would that facilitate a movement for speed change then?
I think with the speed sensors and the data that they are trying to get now, that we are on our way to it, but again, I'm not gonna wait on MoDOT
Right, and we-
to drop the speed when we should be demanding them to drop the speed in our own neighborhoods, because it's evident that people aren't following the speeds as is by sometimes double. So what's the point? Let's hammer down, double down, and make it incredibly punitive, because this is unacceptable. I am in a rage almost daily with the things that I see on our roads, and I'm willing to do something about it.
That's good.
all right, we'll
Can I,
put together,
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Captain Sanders and Andy, you know about the SB5, remember that? Would that be in violation of anything as far as us changing, as far as getting money for the city?
I can tell you, we're not even approaching those numbers. We're not even close to those, violating those.
Well, I think, Councilman Nelson, if I'm understanding you correctly, they're under SB 5 and its follow-up, which I don't remember the number of. There are certain maximum fines imposed on minor traffic violations, which is defined in the code, or not in the code, excuse me, in the state statutes as, off the top of my head, it's non-moving violations, moving violations beneath 19 miles per hour over the speed limit or lower. Those are minor traffic violations, right? So anything where you're going 19 or over, or 20 or over the speed limit, that is no longer a minor traffic violation, is not subject to the $225 fine limitation. There is also a carve-out for construction zones and school zones. So the point is that a school zone speeding ticket is not a minor traffic violation, is not subject to that $225 fine limitation, inclusive of fees.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Right.
Okay, appreciate that,
Thank you. All right, so I'm hearing we move forward with some signage, which is low cost, and an ordinance to impose double fines in school zone. And then we also research what it's gonna take to petition for a speed reduction. Any position on that?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, they'll say yes or they'll say no.
Yeah.
And depending on how, do you have anything to add to that, Sam?
No.
All right,
And most of the signs states that the speed is reduced from this time to that time, this time, so it's not,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and if you, like Sam said, if you see a sign, school zone, double signs.
Yeah, slow down.
And then there's a speed limit sign right there, you're gonna pay a little bit of attention to it. We gotta slow it down on both Florissant, Bermuda, Natural Bridge, it's gotten insane. All right, at this time, any additional citizens' comments? Please.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Kimberly Moore on Skyview. I just kind of wanted to bring up 2 points, and the two top ones, I would love if everybody would possibly write these down. The first one is normal is not always okay. And we really have to be mindful of normality and in all of our lives to be mindful of what we normalize, what we become desensitized to. I'll give some examples. Chattel slavery, which was the worst slavery in this world, was normal because there were people who looked different from other people who thought it was normal to treat them like animals. That was normal and it was okay for them. Does anybody in here believe in God, Jesus, Yahweh, universe, anything? Well, the same thing that you believe in that runs this universe, that made pale people and brown people, made hydrangeas and made roses. I love hydrangeas and roses. They're both unique, both different, all with the same creator. It was once normal for women to not have the right to vote, to not have autonomy over their body, to be struck to the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant. Normal does not always mean okay. I do not want Normandy, y'all over there talking and I'm talking, I do not want Normandy to get comfortable and desensitized to things and normalize them. I wasn't here for the beginning of the meeting. I don't know how long y'all have lived here. I'm 41 years old. I've lived here since I was 5. It is not normal for me to hear gunshots. I do not want to normalize it's okay for bodies to be laid out in Normandy, for blood to be spilled in Normandy, and for us to hear gunshots and to just think of it as a normal occurrence and roll over and go to sleep. I do not want it to become normal that we have big couches on the side of the highway and people drive by and see them, and since it's not in front of their home, they just drive by. Does anybody in here remember Columbine? It was the first huge mass shooting in America. I was in elementary school, and I'll never forget that the boy's mom said, I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know what they were doing. You know why she didn't know? Because she didn't look around. Normandy cannot get complacent and everybody just drive home to their house and not know what's going on in their city. Because when you have a bomb go off or your kid is making shenanigans in the basement or shoots up their school, nobody wants to hear a parent now say, I didn't know. That's your kid. It's your responsibility. Your city is not just Ward 4 or Ward 1. It's the whole, your city is the whole city. Every ward is yours. So I need everybody to be conscious of that. Don't wait until there's a problem. How big is Normandy? Right? Just drive around. If you see something, say something. All of this is important. My last thing, I would love if everybody on the council would write this down, especially for those that have been here for 2 terms or more, but this is a cautionary tale for those that are new. Inspire or retire. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Can I have a motion at this time to go into closed session to discuss a real estate issue and a legal issue?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Cleveland? Yes. Councilman Sexenhammer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith? She's absent. Councilman Evans?
Yes.
Councilman Nelson?
Yes.
Councilman Hong?
Yes.
Councilwoman Grasso?
Yeah.
Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break and meet everybody in the conference room. I did not, did not want to know
Take it. What is this?